Hi gang, Rob here. It is the afternoon of 29 June 2016, and I have for you guys today a video that has been often requested over the last few months. What we're going to do is a little demonstration video on convex sharpening as I do it, and I can't tell you that the way I do it is the best way to do it or the perfect way to do it. I can't tell you there might not be a way out there that's better than I do it, but I'm pretty happy with the results that I get. So what we're going to do today is we're going to sharpen this Bark River little Canadian that belongs to my customer Andy. This is a Canadian hunter-trapper pattern that is very old and classic, and it's basically in this size well suited for cleaning and skinning small game. So we have a knife with a lot of belly and a really gradual grind that comes to a very thin dimension behind the edge. Bark River certainly knew this when they designed it and executed it. It's very thin. I tend to make their knives a little thinner than they come from the factory, just for a little bit better performance. This particular one, I don't know if I can get close enough for you to see, but this one is in CPM 3V steel out of about 1/8 inch stock. So this knife can be extremely thin in this steel and still be plenty tough for any task it's going to be employed in. So we're going to thin it out and sharpen it. I have applied a little Sharpie to the primary convex bevel of the knife just to show you the scratch pattern that I'm putting in this, especially at the early stages as we go. Let's talk a little bit about the convex grind in general and compare it to a V grind. And I've got one of my famous lame diagrams here. Over here on the left side would be a standard V ground knife blade. This would be the primary bevel, which would be the face of the blade. This above the first dotted line would be the secondary bevel or the edge grind that you see most prominently, and then the tip is the micro bevel. So from the factory, let's say this is a satin finished knife. You'd see factory satin here, you'd see edge grind here, and on most factory knives you're going to see a little polished micro bevel area that they usually apply with like a buffing wheel. Of course, you know that I do these last two sections at a fixed angle to a near mirror polish. So that's what a V grind looks like if you cross section it. And then these the two images or the drawings on the right are convex grinds. So the one in the middle would represent sort of a factory Bark River knife grind. You've got the face of the blade, the primary shape of the blade, which is not straight, it's convex. This is a radius, almost a parabola. And then this is going to be done on their slack belt grinders. And they'll almost finish it to an apex, but not quite. Then they're going to come in again with a slack belt grinder and then tighten this radius just a little bit, and you'll see that this will change in texture a little bit on a new Bark River knife. And then again an apex, which is done at a buffing wheel, and it's going to be sort of shiny. Now when I do them, and you'll notice this is not by accident that this diagram on the right is a little thinner than the one in the middle, especially in this area of the knife. I'm generally going to thin out a Bark River knife just a bit, and then there's going to be no discernible difference. Notice I've only got one dotted line on mine. Although that radius is continuously tightening as I get to the apex, this is all going to be polished. Now, why is a convex grind superior, or is it superior to a V grind? Well, I would contend that it is for a lot of reasons. Let's talk about slicing, compliant material. Compare this diagram on the left to this one on the far right. Assuming both apexes have enough bite to actually cut through the material. Which profile, just by looking at it, you don't have to be an engineer or rocket scientist to get this, which picture, which shape looks like it would slip through that material better without getting hung up. Well, obviously it's the smooth one, right? So a nice thinly ground convex blade is going to slice better than a nice thinly ground V-ground blade. Now let's talk about fibrous materials like wood. And not only do we have to cut, again, let's assume we have apexes that will bite. Which one is going to do work in wood without getting stuck? Well, the one without pointy shoulders is going to work in the wood better without getting stuck. Again, the convex grind is sort of superior. Now let's talk about all the ways that the traditional V grind is superior to the convex grind. Yeah, I can't think of any either. We all love our modern folders and our control angle sharpening systems. I surely do. I love sharpening knives on my Edge Pro with, complex and precise V-grind geometry. But you know what? After a while, that becomes mechanical and robotic. And there's something special about applying these convex grinds because they're infinitely adjustable depending on what we want a knife to do. The thickness of the main bevel or the main profile of the blade, thick to thin, has a lot to do with how robust the knife is. And then, our high performance and durability characteristics come from how we do this area of the blade. If I make it more obtuse, if I drew tangents at the apex to these radiuses, more obtuse would be more durable. Thinner or more acute would be better cutting capability. And a convex edge grind is infinitely adjustable, and it's an art form. It gives me a lot more satisfaction to do a convex edge right than a V-ground edge right. So let's look at my process, shall we? Set the knife aside and let's take a look at this guy. Here's another thing very satisfying about convex sharpening for me. I do most of my process on this convex fixture. Yeah, it's labeled so I can tell it apart from the other fixtures in my shop. Actually, just for making videos, I did that. You can see that it's sort of well used, and it consists of a piece of poplar trim grade with some rubber feet screwed in, and then some bolts that are I just drilled some round holes a little smaller than the heads of the bolts and hammered them in so the wood conforms to the hex. Works great, needs no glue of any kind. And then those poke through, and I just cut up an L bracket and I use them for clamps on either end of the fixture with some stainless wing nuts. And in the middle here is a piece of leather. And leather works great for convex sharpening because it's precise enough if you get a firm piece of leather that you really do get some angle or tangent radius angle control. It's not so compliant that it's bending up and around and off an edge, but it's not flat either. It's not going to produce a straight facet on your blade. So I use that, and then on that I use some sandpaper, ranging from 220, and this is not wet dry. This is just plain old sandpaper because I couldn't find any 220 in wet dry, up to 2000, and I use 600, 1000, and 2000. The 220 will be used only for reshaping or thinning the blade. So although it will run all the way to the apex in the beginning, the 220 is going to be pretty much obliterated by what else I do. The face of the blade from Bark River is finished at 600 grit. So when I get done making a mess on the face of the blade, I'm going to replicate that factory satin pattern with 600, and then the 1000 and 2000 grits will be only at the apex, if that makes any sense. So we're going to get started think I've got this about in the right place for you guys to see. I should have probably put some paper on here before. This might be a long video because I'm just going to go. I'm going to do minimal, if any, edits. I'll probably talk a little bit while we're changing over. So in a 3V knife, you guys know that are my customers. A 3V Bark River knife, you pay $25 to have me sharpen it. So I guess you're going to be able to figure out my hourly rate if you watch this video. So I clamp down at the top of the fixture first, just sort of making sure that my edges line up right, because we use the edges a little bit. And then the bottom clamp we're going to put on with these wing nuts not quite finger tight, because I leave a little bit hanging over down here so I can grab a hold of it and tighten it over the leather so I don't have big ripples in my sandpaper as I'm sharpening. So pulling tight, and we're ready to rock. No water on this one, so you're going to be able to see. Also, guys, a lot of knives I've noticed from Bark River especially come with a little different radius profile from side to side on the knife. This, for instance, this side might be almost straight, and then all the curvature of the convex happens on one side. So I try to even that out a little bit. So I'm going to work on this, the side I have marked up with Sharpie first, so you can kind of see. And this knife seems to be from my digital caliper. That would be caliper with digits, fingers. They're really thin through here. It thickens a little bit in the belly. Stays pretty thick to the tip. So here we go. I'm just gonna make a mess. What I do is I almost forgot. Because I am prone to get lost in myself sometimes. A lot of times what I'll do, this knife probably doesn't need it because the etching is very high on the blade, but I'll take a little piece of this clear Postal Service packing tape and just tape the etch, so if the sandpaper would happen to abrade it, it won't wipe the etching off the blade. So that's what you got there. Can you see the tape? I think you can. So let's get started. I start at the tip, and you want the tip of the knife to trail your stroke. So the angle of my paper will be going like this. If you run the paper into the tip, you're going to round it. So you want the tip to trail the paper. If that makes any sense. So what I'm going to do, lay the knife sort of pinching it with my fingers on the cutting edge, and then I'm just going to raise it ever so slightly, and we're going to thin this knife out a little bit. And because I'm not working the apex yet, I can leave the knife on the sandpaper coming forward, but the convex sharpening stroke is going to be away from the cutting edge. But I'm just sort of lightening up my pressure as I come back to make sure I'm not digging. Okay, so you can see I've wiped that Sharpie completely off, and so I'm thinning still. And I'm working my way down that belly just a little bit. Taking longer strokes now, coming to the apex. I've elevated my angle just a bit. Okay. Not quite bringing up a burr yet. Probably should have started with a newer piece of 220. Okay, I've got a burr out here near the tip, and I'm going to work my way back along the belly and thin the knife out a little bit and bring a little burr up on the other side. So I'm thinning this area, and I'm going to come to my apex and make a burr. So sing a song, check your emails, whatever. Just I'm going to work this until it's done. You'll notice on this 220 paper with no water, especially as it gets worn out, you'll get a little heat. You can get carried away and actually start burning yourself a little bit if you're not careful. So you can see in my thinning process that Sharpie is disappearing. And the scratch pattern, when we get out toward the tip, is not going to be the factory direction, so we'll fix that later. Okay, one thing to pay special attention of. This knife has a sharpening choil. You can see that. And it is adequate for good sharpening all the way to the back. Not all Bark River knives are so. Sometimes you have to make some modifications. But this one we're not going to touch because we're going to be able to get straight sharp cutting edge all the way to the back. It's clear of the plunge grind and there's enough there to let us do what we got to do. We will probably elevate the tip. I don't know if you can see that, but as we get to the back of that, the base of that edge, we're going to elevate the tip and really bear down on that base to get that last little bit sharp, sort of right in the corner of the leather. You can actually see I haven't done that yet, and there's a little Sharpie left in that area. We're going to get rid of it now. Okay. So I think I've got a little thinning work left to do in this area of the belly, so I'm going to work that a little more. Remember, that was sort of the fattest part of this blade. Okay. I'm liking that. So now we're going to pick it up a little more and we're just going to work on the apex. We're going to pull up a burr. Okay, I've got burr from the tip down to about here where my finger is. So we're going to kind of work on the last 2/3 of the blade now. Pleased with that. I've got a burr at the base of the blade already and haven't really worked on it much. So that middle third is where we need to work still. Okay, that's looking great. Now we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. And the asymmetry in this particular knife, the side we've been working on, is the rounder side. So that'd be the mark side if you're talking traditional knives, or the show side if you're a right-handed modern folder guy. And then the back side is a little bit flatter. So we won't do as much thinning, we'll just round it on that side. Oh, that's going to be pretty. Okay, now I got a mess here. Look at it, that's steel, guys. I got a little magnetism going on. I hope you can see. You know, I've kind of made a mess of the satin. And we're going to fix that at the next stage. So I don't want to put any different angle scratches in my satin by sharpening after I fix the satin finish on the side of the blade, on the face of the blade. So we're going to do our sharpening first. We're going to get the 600 grit wet dry sandpaper good and wet. Spread that water out. And you're going to notice my angle is going to be a little elevated from where it was working with the 220. And I'm just going to kind of count strokes. And I'm going to do the blade in two sections. So, you know, one stroke for this part and another stroke for this part. So I did 10 on the front at the tip, and come over to the other side. Being a little more aware of the precision of my angle and my stroke with the 600, because we're actually starting to form the cutting edge now. Okay. And you can see the micro finish is changing a little bit at the apex, getting shiny. Now I'm going to elevate my angle just a little more and do one 2-part stroke on each side, alternating. Bring this a little closer to you. I'm hitting my knuckle on the edge of the table there. Okay. Let's see where we're at here with our edge. Looking good. Now, time to fix that satin. And I don't need to worry about wiping out my edge because I got that tape, so I can really work top to bottom. I don't know, I'm going to try to get this so you can see our satin looks a little wonky. And, you know, a lot of people wouldn't care. But personally, I'm pretty anal about my knives, especially if they're a $200 or $300 small fixed blade. I kind of want them to look perfect. So do my customers. They don't pay me to send them back knives with a crosshatch of satin. So this is how we fix it. I start at the tip, and I really pinch down hard at the tip. I look at the direction of the factory scratches, and I try to go exactly the same angle. At the tip, I'm really sort of pulling up on the handle and pinching and still rocking the knife to the edge. It's kind of a complex motion. It's a little bit tricky in the belly area. Okay, one side. See how we did. Now I can still see some 220 up the face, so we're going to do another 8 strokes or so. Okay, here is the repaired side. And here's the side, especially if you look out at the tip. You can see some kind of funny scratch patterns. Not sure how the camera's going to pick this up, guys. Just sort of have to trust me on this one. Looking good. Nope. This tape, guys, comes in a blue dispenser roll at your post office. I use it for a lot of things. It's what I mask the faces of blades with on the Edge Pro. It's super durable and it sticks like crazy. Now I was not being the least bit careful about sanding into that tape. And look, there it still is. Just a few more strokes. Come back to this side, still not quite happy with that. There we go. All right, time to wash off, get any 600 grit that might be hanging around, then we'll move to the 1000. By the way, I always change paper towels in between grits. Just don't like there to be any chance of contamination from one grit to the next. And we'll go to our 1000. And lock her down. Pulling tight. Okay. And again, we'll wet our paper. Now we'll have much less work to do on these last two grits. We're just dressing the apex. So pretty elevated angle. Now with these elevated grits, burr formation is going to be hard to detect, especially with a steel like 3V. It doesn't kick up a big burr anyway. You just have to be really mindful of feeling the apex in both directions so we know we're getting to the point, literally. And then inspecting our work when we think we're done. And that's done by feel. Okay, let's see what we got here. a little dull spot right there at the back. When I say dull, I don't mean dull, I mean not quite scary. Okay, let's see where we're at now. Ah, that's better. Okay. All right. Just kind of giving a quick visual to the apex to see where I can see light reflecting. I still got a little area right here. Okay. Give it a couple more sweeps. We're just blending everything, make it a nice continuous apex. It's okay to be a little choppy and spotty, sort of roughing it out. But when we're done, we want to have continuous ribbon of sharp. Okay, that's gone. All right, gonna change paper towels, change paper, be right back. And on with the 2000. I suppose there are faster ways to do this. But I like the control of my hands moving over a fixed abrasive for this kind of work more than I like holding a blade still on a belt sander. I just feel like I'm more in control of the material that's being removed. So we can make it precise this way. Okay, here we go. This will be our last sandpaper. Then we'll move to the strops. Okay. Oh boy. All right. I'm going to clean up my watery mess here just a little. And we'll talk about straps. We're going to be using 3 straps with 3 different compounds after I wash my blade. First one will be sort of a softer strap with black rouge type compound. So the aluminum oxide abrasive and wax. That's probably not much finer than the 2000 grit paper. It just sort of makes the finish a little more creamy. Takes out the high spots and gets me to the next strap a little more elegantly than going straight from the 2000 grit paper. Next will be a 2.0 micron CBN emulsion on the flesh side of a pretty firm piece of leather. And the last one will be a 0.5 micron on the flesh side of a pretty firm piece of leather. So let's get at it. Guys, if my battery dies, that's going to be bad. Okay. And the same kind of strokes you're used to seeing. I am going to take some strokes on the face just to kind of blend all my work here and make it look nice and pretty. Oh yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. All right, now here we go to the edge. Well, got too close to the edge. All right. Now what I'm going to do with the straps is I'm going to strategically fold my paper towel. And because again, I don't want to mix up my stuff. Okay. Now I won't use that side again. Now we go to the 2 micron CBN. Just being mindful to feel the apex without rolling it over. I don't feel like I sharpen as well when I'm talking, so who knows how this one's going to come out. That's why I haven't done this video yet. Okay. I think we'll be alright. Uh-oh, I'm about out of squirts. That's bad. Not good to be out of squirts. And now we're going to the 1/2 micron diamond. So the first strop was maybe 2500 grit. That 2 micron CBN is about 3800 grit. Now Bark River says that they sharpen to 3000 grit at the factory. I'm not sure I believe that. The 1/2 micron, I don't know guys, what is it, 8,000, 10,000 grit? It's fine. We're there. All right. I'm going to fold this inside out. Make sure I don't have any stuff. Man, looks like we're going to have to go to the acetone because you guys don't want to watch me fill my Windex bottle. Besides, this will get any petroleum-based strop compound binder off my edge. Look at that. Got some black on there. I'm going to peel off my tape. See, I need my acetone anyway. It's a great tape goo remover. So guys, you can steal your wife's nail polish remover to work on your knives. Actually, I buy the pure acetone stuff, so it doesn't have any moisturizer in it. All right. Looking good. All right. Moment of truth. Will it cut? I think it'll cut. Let's see if it'll push cut. Boy, it sure wants to. It will. Well, I don't have any good edges. Here we go. Pretty close. Let me give it a couple more shots here. Okay. Give me a fresh piece of paper. There we go. Now we're cooking. That's why it's very important to inspect your work. Okay, let's get all this stuff out of the way. Give my blade a final blue cloth polish. Man, I got goo on this cloth. There we are. Ready to go home. Oh golly, that's scary, guys. Ooh. That's it. That's that's how I do convex sharpening. I know there have been a lot of questions about it, and I think it's a process worth showing you guys. It seems to be working pretty well. I got a lot of really sharp Bark River knives, and customers do too. By the way, I don't think I've done a review on this little Canadian. Extremely nice hunting knife. Looks kind of weird, doesn't it? It is completely function over form. Check out the sheep's horn handle. Not sure I'm a big fan of it, but gives a great grip, great purchase. This one's on its way home, guys, and that's all for now. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ, and remember the word, and Andy's little Canadian are sharp.